Am I the a-hole for telling my aunt that finding my birth parents wouldn't make her bio son search for her? I'm 24, female, an adoptee, and I have never ever wanted to search for my birth parents or any birth family. I'm happy with the family I was raised in. I did some genetic testing to get a better idea of risk factors, so I don't need my birth family for that kind of thing, and generally, I don't feel any curiosity about the people I'm genetically related to. I'm also really fucking happy with my life, and I'm not feeling anything missing. Something could change in the future, but I have never felt any other way about this. My mom's oldest sister, aka aunt from the title, placed her son for adoption 38 years ago. She was young and she felt like she had no choices at the time. But she has always wished she hadn't given him up. She tried to get him back a couple of months after he was adopted, and she tried searching for him a few times, but it seems like he never looked for her, and so she hasn't found him. It's a grief she carries around almost 40 years later. I think my aunt's experience has given her this warped idea that if I were to search for my birth family and show an interest in meeting and being part of my birth family, her son will do the same. She has encouraged me to be more curious about my birth family for years now. Since I was a teenager, and I never cared. She told me, not asked or suggested, but told me I should look for my birth parents. I told her I didn't want to, and she told me I didn't know what I was saying. She has used guilt trips about my birth parents missing me and about the family I could be missing out on. But I was clear I don't care. My mom spoke to her several times and told her to get help and stop dragging me into her grief. She refuses to leave it alone. She has asked me why I have no interest, and I have told her how I feel. She has really tried to make me say I'm somewhat curious, but I'm just not. And then we had an incident the other week. She mentioned it for the millionth time, and I tried to ignore her and carry on other conversations, but she kept bringing it up, and bringing it up. She was asked to stop by my mom and other family members, and finally I got so tired of her pressing the issue that I told her finding my birth parents won't make her son search for her, and she needs to stop linking those things because she's setting herself up for more heartache. My aunt called me callous to her experience and feelings. Am I the a-hole?
Not the a-hole. You really cannot be too harsh with your aunt at this point. You've every right to go completely no contact with her, and the entire family needs to back you up. If she does both Ancestry and 23andMe testing and makes her results public, her son can find her if he wants. But she's so desperate she's gonna need therapy regardless, or she'll drive him away the minute he meets her.
She's done those, and she keeps waiting for a match to him, but it never came.
Does she realize that maybe he was never told he was adopted? Or, sadly, he may have passed years ago?
She considered he might not know, but not that he might have died. For a while she refused to believe he wasn't looking for her too, but then reality dawned when she found no traces of him.
Not the a-hole. Your aunt needs therapy to learn to deal with her grief, and maybe some hard truth will make her see that. Even if it doesn't, she needs to learn that she can't project her issues onto you, and maybe being harsh with her will do that. Also, tell her the only person being callous is the one that won't stop bringing it up, because she certainly hasn't shown any interest in your feelings and experience.
Not the a-hole. She is the one being callous to your feelings and experience. What you do with your life and who you consider your family is only up to you. Tell her that the next time she forces her feelings onto you will be the last time you speak to her for a month. And double the time out every subsequent time. She needs therapy. You are not a puppet to live out her fantasy with.
I might not even put a time limit on it and just say the next time she brings it up I won't speak to her until therapy happens. It feels like we'll just keep repeating the same shit otherwise. Maybe mom doing it too will make more of a difference.
Not the a-hole. Perhaps it would be callous if this was the first time she mentioned it and that was your reply. But you have told her off many times, so has your mom, and so have other family members, and she's still needling you. It's high time this gets through, so yeah, no blame on you if you get more blunt.
Am I the a-hole for telling my sister-in-law I won't change my 4-month-old daughter's name for her? I gave birth to my daughter, Ember, 4 months ago. My husband and I both loved her name, and that's how it was chosen. We announced the day she was born, and nobody said anything negative or gave a reason for us not to use it then. I say this because 3 days ago my sister-in-law, who is married to my brother, sat me down and asked me to change the name because it's the name of her stillborn daughter she had with her ex-husband 7 years ago. She told me she tried to keep it quiet, but she couldn't let me keep calling my daughter Ember because it's such a painful reminder for her. She told me she really feels like we should change her name. I gently told sister-in-law that my daughter was 4 months old and her name is on the birth certificate and it would cost us to change it, so we will not. She told me she tried so hard not to say anything, and the fact she did eventually break and bring this up should show how hard this is for her and make me more willing to change the name for her sake. I told my husband about it afterward and he felt the same way I did. He told me it seemed like a weak excuse to wait for almost 5 months to tell us when she had the chance long before this. My brother found out about the conversation with his wife and he reached out and told me she mentioned it to him 2 months ago and that she was battling with asking us to change the name since, but he understands why I said no and supports the decision. Yesterday she reached out to me again and asked me if we had decided on a new name yet, and I told her my answer is still no, and she asked why and I told her she waited 4 months to tell us. She became very angry very quickly and told me if she had lost my niece my response would be different and I should see this as her losing my niece because she would have been if she were alive. She also told me my daughter is going to grow up always hearing about the cousin I gave her the same name as and that I should reconsider before burdening my daughter with that. She told me a good person with good morals would. I should also mention, I knew she had suffered a pregnancy loss, but it was implied she had a miscarriage far earlier and not a stillborn child. I never knew the name or sex. And I never ever heard her use a name for her daughter. Am I the a-hole?
Everyone grieves differently, and at their own rate. However, 7 years definitely warrants therapy, counseling, and the coping mechanisms. I find it extremely difficult to believe that in 7 years your sister-in-law has never met anyone, or even a pet, named Ember. Or has she, and she insists that person change the name also. Not the a-hole.
I have no idea if she has or hasn't. I guess the difference could be my daughter being in her life and hearing us all use the name.
Okay, look, you are not the a-hole for keeping your child's name. Sister-in-law needs therapy, one who is an expert in child loss. But you're mad at her for not telling you sooner, but would that have even changed anything? I bet the answer is no. Your husband is wrong saying it's a weak excuse to have waited to say anything when in fact it shows she was trying to come to terms with it. Have empathy for her. She lost a child. You may one day be in her shoes. I hope you never are, but well, shit happens. So look, stop blaming her. She shouldn't keep pestering you. But she did seemingly try to get over it. And until you lose a child, you'll never know or understand her pain. How about compromise? Can she call the child a nickname? You are not the a-hole for not changing her name. She isn't one for having some rough feelings regarding this either, though the pestering of you changing it leans her toward a-hole territory. Again, you aren't an a-hole. You picked the name that you love. You didn't do it to be malicious, as you didn't know.
If I had known right away, I would have been willing to pick a different name. Before it was on the birth certificate. But I am not willing to change it after 4 months.
She also told me my daughter is going to grow up always hearing about the cousin I gave her the same name as, and that I should reconsider before burdening my daughter with that. I mean, you had never heard the cousin's name until now, so it's not like it's something that is regularly brought up and talked about, so this argument is weak. If she wanted you to change the name, then she really should have brought it up immediately, and even then it would be at your discretion. Is it sad for her? Yes, but at this point it is unreasonable to ask you to change the name.
True, but I feel like this was a veiled threat that the sister-in-law intends to now talk about her step-cousin who was stillborn with the same name to make OP, her husband and child uncomfortable and feel guilty.
Not the a-hole. Your sister-in-law needs therapy. Though I understand her pain, she doesn't get to dictate how others live to accommodate her trauma. On top of that, there is zero reason your daughter should hear anything about her cousin, unless your sister-in-law is vindictive and purposely wants to traumatize her. The proper response here is that if your sister-in-law mentions her stillborn child to your daughter even once, she will be cut off.
Am I the a-hole for refusing to offer my mom a chance to do better for her kid's sake? My mom had me, 17 female, when she was 30. She was single and I never knew my father, but I did find out more info on him 2 years ago after doing some online digging and didn't like what I found. But that's neither here nor there. My mom was not a good mother. She admitted to me in the past she attempted to abort me and it failed, and she tried to give me up for adoption, but the couple who planned to adopt me got pregnant just before I was born, and so mom was like, fuck it. She covered the most basic of needs for me, and that was it. We did not spend time together. She hired a babysitter to do the day-to-day care, usually a teenager looking for money. She did not take an interest in my education. She ignored any contact from school. It was up to my babysitter to take me to medical appointments. That's just how she was. She didn't want me. When I was 9, she met a guy and she married him. I think I was 10. They had a daughter soon after, then a son and then another daughter. I spent most of my time at friends once she got married since my mom didn't want to pay for a babysitter anymore. Worked for me. At 10 it was painful for me to see her make a family when she hadn't wanted me. What neither of us ever expected or prepared for was the fact her kids would seek me out and want me. I try to avoid being around them where possible because I don't want to be a jerk, but I don't want a relationship with them either. But they still look at me like I'm the coolest person they know and try so hard to reach out to me. When Mom realized this 4-ish months ago and realized how old I am, I think she panicked and she brought me to therapy with her where she apologized for being a bad mom, admitted she had been a bad mom and begged me for a second chance so she could do better for the sake of her 3 kids who clearly want me to be their big sister. She said she knows we have no relationship, but she doesn't want me to leave in a few months and break her kids' hearts, and she sees how wrong she is. But I have refused to offer her that chance. I told her she made her choice 17 years ago and her kids' best interests are not something I am worried about, just my own life and how I move forward once I'm gone. My mom and her husband, who I guess she told, were both pretty angry I didn't consider their kids at all because at least she's trying now, or whatever. Am I the a-hole?
LOL, not the a-hole. I'm trying to imagine what that therapist went home thinking. The poker face you gotta put on as a professional faced with that level of self-centeredness. I know I've treated you like shit, but can you do me a solid and prioritize the kids I actually care about? Fuck all the way off with that noise.
She showed her shock when my mom admitted to her that she did in fact tell me she tried to abort me and give me up for adoption before deciding it was too much work to get rid of me so close to my birth.
She's not sorry. She just realized she won't have a free babysitter when you move out.
She doesn't have one anyway. I never babysit and never would.
Not the a-hole, what have they suggested they would do differently? Nothing?
She has suggested she will try to create a bond with me and try to love me.
LOL, try, which means she doesn't love you now. I'd stick to your plan.
Not the a-hole, but your mom sure is. Leveraging her kids to guilt trip you is a weird move. She isolated you from them years ago, and now she's only admitting you back to be the older sister. I hope you have found the family you deserve through your support system.
Not the a-hole. F her and her husband. You focus on bettering your life, moving forward, and creating your chosen family. Best of luck.
Am I the a-hole for not waking my wife up and letting her sleep the whole day? Using a throwaway for obvious reasons. Just a quick background info, my wife, Heather, 36 female, and I, 35 female, have been together for the past 14 years, and married for 10. We have 2 daughters, 4 and 6 years old, together. Heather is a doctor and she works ridiculously long hours, gets tired, etc. Yesterday she came back home after being away all day. She was on call and needed to go in for an emergency surgery, and told me she was going to sleep for a couple of hours and asked me to wake her up by dinner so she could see the girls and I a bit. She slept around 5 p.m. I tried to wake her at 7 p.m. I called for her, softly shook her, gave her a kiss on the cheek, but she didn't get up. She is a very light sleeper and these things wake her up 90% of the time. I thought she needed the rest and let her sleep. Heather slept until the next morning, which is when she needed to go to work. Heather was very upset the following morning, saying I should have woken her up, and that I had caused her to miss an entire day of family time. I explained that she didn't get up and she said I just should have tried harder to wake her. I get that she wants to be present in our family, and she is, and she wants out kids to see both their moms, but I just wanted to let her get some much needed sleep to help her be well rested for the next day. Was I genuinely the a-hole?
This is tough, but I'll go against the grain and say no a-holes here. If you've called to someone and then shake them, but they aren't waking up, they probably need the rest. That said, she's understandably unhappy when she wanted to spend quality family time with you and the kids.
I agree. I can completely see both sides. I understand why you let her sleep, she clearly needed it. I can also understand that she is upset she missed out on family time.
No a-holes here. She's upset she didn't get to spend time with her family, and that's reasonable. Being under the impression she must need more sleep when you couldn't get her up is also reasonable. Someone who is half dead from exhaustion isn't at their best for either their family or their patients.
Your wife is a doctor. Don't ask us, ask her. If she had a patient who had worked as hard as she had, wanted to lay down for a couple of hours, but wouldn't wake up when prodded and slept all the way till morning, what would Dr. wife say? Because I'm betting she would tell that patient that they clearly needed to sleep. Medice, cura te ipsum.
Not the a-hole. You were not an a-hole for letting your wife sleep. Considering how tired she was, you did it with good intentions, but from her perspective, missing out on family time, especially after expressing a desire to be woken up, might have felt like a missed opportunity to connect with you and the kids. Acknowledging her feelings and validating her disappointment can help.
No a-holes here. Sounds like your wife is exhausted, stressed, and missing her family. She wanted some time with her family. You were trying to be considerate of her physical well-being. No one's in the wrong. Maybe you could schedule a fun, simple, relaxing activity for you all to enjoy as a family on her next day off.
Am I the a-hole for not appreciating the surprise getaway my husband planned? For the past month, my husband, 27 male, and I, 28 female, have been in a rut. We've been arguing about so many trivial things. Last week, he randomly asked me if I liked eating s'mores. I said I don't care for them and rarely do I ever crave them. He then asked me what I thought of cabins and camping. I told him I don't care for either, to be honest, and the only way I would go camping is if it was a glamping experience. He nodded and said noted. Today he tells me to be ready and dressed by 4 p.m. because we have a date planned. I put on a cute outfit because all he told me was we have a special date planned. Any other time he said that the date usually involves us going out to a fancy restaurant. So I put on a skirt, some heels, and a top. He sees my outfit, doesn't say anything. The only thing I noticed that was odd was that he brought his backpack with him. I asked him why, and he said that he just wanted to put his hoodie somewhere in case it got cold later. We get into the car and 20 minutes into the drive, I ask him how far is the restaurant we're going to. He smiles and says, about an hour. I pull up my phone and start responding to some work emails to kill time. And then when we arrived to our destination, I honestly got so upset. It was a super tiny trailer in the middle of the West Virginia woods. There was a small picnic table outside and just woods. I ask him what we were doing there and he turns to me and says, surprise. We're having a couples retreat. Do you like it? I walk inside the trailer and mind you, my husband knows I am extremely claustrophobic. There is no room inside this trailer. I start panicking because A, I need physical space. B, I'm in heels and a skirt in the middle of the woods. C, he packed PJs, his toothbrush, and a change of clothes but didn't think to tell me I'd be needing anything for this date. At that point I just blatantly ask him, have I ever expressed any interest in camping to you? He said, no. And then I followed up with, you know how much I hate small spaces. What made you think I'd enjoy this? I just really want to understand. He didn't say anything. I told him I appreciated the gesture, but I could not for the life of me figure out how he thought planning this in the way he did was going to help get us out of a rut. This isn't the first time he's planned something for me that I hated. And the worst thing, I've told him before if I've never expressed interest in something to please not gift it to me or plan a date around it. I do a very good job at giving him extremely thoughtful gifts and planning him very thoughtful dates experiences. And today, I told him that it just seems like there isn't any consideration for me in that regard. Am I the a-hole for reacting the way that I did?
Not the a-hole. I'm bewildered by the idea of him planning a camping outdoor overnight type of event, not even hinting that you dressing up for going out to dinner was a problem, and not bringing along any toiletries or extra clothing for you. What was going on in this man's brain? I'm going to bring my wife out into the woods in inappropriate clothing and with nothing for her to change into or sleep in, and she's going to be happy about it? I don't necessarily mind camping, but this entire experience would feel disrespectful and piss me the heck off.
I was very surprised to learn that he didn't pack me anything at all. If he packed me an overnight bag, I might have reacted differently. I mean, yeah, sure, I hate small spaces. Would I have enjoyed myself? Probably not. But it would have been nice to know that my partner packed me my essentials. That he was thoughtful and intentional with the planning.
I super hate the part where he didn't pack you any clothes or toiletries or anything. That was a total dumbass move.
That part was what made me cry.
Seriously, that would have given me a panic attack. I'm an hour from home, you're expecting me to stay here overnight? 2 nights, and now I have to solve the problem of you brought nothing for me.
And the worst part is, it's that time of the month for me, which he knew he always knows, and he did not bring me any extra pads. Thank God I had one in my purse.
Does he have an ounce of respect for you? You actively told him you would not enjoy this experience, and he said, noted, and then took you anyway to the most half-assed camping plan with no proper packing or toiletries. Are you kidding? I would cry my eyes out and fucking go wait in the car to go home. The complete lack of saying anything when he saw your outfit is what gets me too.
I'm such a type A person when it comes to planning anything that it's very difficult for me to empathize or come up with any adequate excuses for him to understand why such lack of careful planning when it comes to surprising me. And the surprise was something I told him I would not enjoy. All I know is our therapist is going to have a field day with this.
So did you stay? Are you in the trailer right now?
I tried sitting in the trailer for 30 minutes, but I genuinely could not. He didn't pack any food or drinks, and the closest grocery store to where we were was 45 minutes away. But if we went there, by the time we would have arrived, it would have been closed. So he suggested we just go back to our apartment and order pizza.
Either he is the dumbest man on the planet or he is messing with you on purpose.
What do you think of these stories? Leave a comment and subscribe to the channel to see more interesting videos.